Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. I'm Stu Hardy, joined as always by Derek Brissett. You know, Derek, after the big bombshell news that dropped last week, it's good that we've had a week in which, nothing's happened, no information's come through. I know it's going to be a real struggle to talk about anything. I mean, was there even any rugby going on this weekend? I mean, did you see anything? I wasn't really sure.
No, I saw that Taylor Swift's boyfriend mentioned rugby and how much he enjoys watching rugby on his podcast. I feel like that's the most important rugby news that has come out. So shout out to Travis Kelce and the New Heights podcast for having a lively discussion about whether rugby players would be able to make it into the NFL. But also by shouting out rugby and mentioning how great it is to watch rugby. And we got to figure out how to get Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, I guess, by extension, but more importantly, Taylor Swift, because she's the most famous person on the planet right now. To a rugby. She's got a rugby reference in one of her songs too. So I mean, if Travis is into rugby, like it sounds like a good date idea at some point, right? Like we got to get some celebrities out to MLR games.
Yeah, well, he's currently with the Chiefs, and he's from Ohio, and from what I've heard, Ohio does have a bit of a rugby community there.
Get him to an MLR game though. We gotta.
But that's the question: is like, which is his nearest team to go along and support? I mean, obviously, for an NFL star like him, travel probably isn't a concern, but you want a bit of home team comforts.
New York would probably be it. I feel like Taylor Swift kind of hangs around New York, doesn't she?
Yeah, I'm sure that could.
San Diego, LA might be the team. Wherever they end up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like coast to coast, like take your pick.
New England? Doesn't like Taylor Swift have something? It's like a house or something out in. I know nothing about Taylor Swift. I don't know what I'm talking about right now.
Swifties, tell us where
does Taylor Swift actually live most of the time? I feel like folklore. I feel like
where are Taylor's residences, and which MLR team would she be nearest enough, and which MLR team would she support?
Yeah, we got to get her out to a game. I feel like folklore has some like northeastern vibes to it, so maybe New England or something kind of out there. Toronto, why not Toronto? Get them north of the border. Why not?
I know.
Speaking of which, how do we got to get some other celebrities out? Like the point that I'm trying to make with this, there's celebrity rugby fans out there. Like, how do we get them to games? And like, if the Chiefs can become the most popular sports team on the world in 2 days, based on who one of their players happens to be dating, right? Like, why not shed some light on rugby by having celebrities show up? Like LA, you're in Hollywood. Figure out the rugby fans and get them out to a game. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I know Nicole Scherzinger was at a Giltini's game, I think, during their first season.
Yeah, we gotta do more of that. Yeah, we do need more of that. We need a little bit more. But I feel like considering Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce might be the two most famous people on the planet right now, I think we got to target them, especially since Travis Kelce was just like, I love watching rugby on a podcast.
Yeah,
we need to.
I know. It's a relevant point, right? Okay, I know there's thousands of podcasts talking about Travis and Taylor. Let's move it back to rugby for a moment, because we've been beating around the bush, but we need to talk about the biggest sporting tournament that is going on at the moment. It's in Paris. Lots of action going on. I am clearly talking about the International Wheelchair Rugby Cup that has taken place in Paris this past week. And Canada actually made it to this World Cup, so that's a plus. And it was done there were two pools. In Canada's pool, they had Australia, Denmark, and Great Britain, and in the other pool was the United States, Japan, New Zealand, and host France. So it's a round robin format, and then depending on where you finish, if you finish in the top two teams, you will progress to the semi-finals, and then from there into the final. So Wheelchair Rugby Canada, they started off with a 49-48 win over Australia. Canada are currently ranked, or before this tournament, ranked 5th in the world. Australia 2nd, so a 1-point narrow win over them. Then they had their next game against Denmark, which they also won 50-46. And they closed out the pool stage with a game against Great Britain that they also won, again by 1 point, 48-47. So Canada finishing top of the pool, fantastic result, automatically into the semi-finals. So they play against France, and the winner progressing to the gold medal match. And, you're going to be noticing a trend here is that Canada win by 1 point over the host France and 51-50. So Canada guaranteed a medal at this point, and they go into the final, which is up against Australia. And Australia remembered that they were ranked 3 places higher than Canada, and they turned on the afterburners. It was really close in the first half. Now, for those who don't know, wheelchair rugby is divided into quarters, and Australia would get the lead, and then Canada would come back to within a point in both the first and second quarter. But it was in the third quarter that Australia really stretched the gap, and Canada just weren't able to make it back. The final result, Canada 48, Australia 53. So Australia win the gold medal. I believe now they're also world number ones, but I don't know how the ranking system works.
The ranking system works by if you win the gold medal, that's you're one. That's how most sports ranking systems should work, anyways.
And yet, rugby always finds a way to be different in that regard. But either way, a phenomenal result for Canada, finishing second, getting that silver medal, bringing it back. And of course, in under a year's time, they will be returning to Paris to compete in the Paralympics, and be looking to add another medal to their collection, this time on the biggest stage in wheelchair rugby. But just want to give a shout out to all the players that represented Canada in this tournament. You did a fantastic job. So Rio Kandakovac, Travis Murau, Matt Whitehead, Cody Caldwell, Trevor Hirschfield, Patrick Dejanis, Patrice Samad, Anthony Letourneau, Melanie Labelle, Matt Debley, Zach Medell, Eric Rodriguez. You guys did amazing. Congratulations on winning your medal. And, congratulations to Wheelchair Rugby Canada. Fantastic result. Definitely looking forward to seeing what you guys will be doing in the Paris 2024 Paralympics.
Yeah, it's are they going to the Pan Am Games, like the Para-Pan Am Games that's coming up as well? Or is that like the next step? Are they going to that too, or they?
Okay, so we just had a quick look, and the Santiago Para-Pan American Games will be taking place November. For the competition, they say the event dates are the 17th to the 23rd of November. So it looks as though these guys will be taking part again. For Parapan.
So because I was gonna say, like, the first time I saw like wheelchair rugby was at the 2015 Para-Pan Am Games that were in Toronto. I was actually working for the Pan Am Games during that entire during the entire games there. So I ended up with some tickets to go check out the wheelchair rugby, and it's so much fun. It's such a great sport to watch. It's so entertaining. If you didn't get to see any of the Canadian games or any of the games from the International Wheelchair Rugby Cup that just happened, all the games are still on YouTube. So, like, I would recommend going to check them out. It's a lot of fun. Support the Canadian side, as Stu just mentioned. They won a silver medal. Like, they're really good. They're incredible athletes, and they deserve they deserve all the support in the world too. And hopefully this is a big win for them, and hopefully that they can continue building and get a go for a gold medal at the Paris Olympics next year.
Yeah, so unfortunately I can't find the exact dates for the Para-Pan games and the wheelchair rugby, but just a reminder that the rugby.
Pardon? do some research before we record, Stu.
I know it happens.
Gotta know these things. We gotta know.
Well, that's the thing. It's like I can only use the information that's provided for me. But if you are looking for any rugby, we do want to remind you that the Rugby Sevens are taking place on the 3rd and 4th of November. So next weekend. And and they'll be taking place in Santiago in Chile. So it's there's going to be some form of rugby. There's the rugby you want, wheelchair rugby, and more rugby, Rugby Sevens. So, fantastic. Again, fantastic news. Congratulations to everyone at Wheelchair Rugby Canada. Right. Well, I've been talking about France and Paris. We're going to be going back there in a little bit. But for now, let's bring it back to Toronto because we have some re-signing news for the Toronto Arrows. Scrum half Will Grant and forward James O'Neill have re-signed for 2024. Grant, Australian-born but Canadian eligible. James O'Neill, we've had him on the podcast before. He's been, obviously last year he took some time with Melrose in Scotland as part of the partnership that the Arrows have. So great to hear those guys back. But we also have some news in the staff. So Cory Hector has transitioned from the academy to the senior coaching team. And I believe he's like the backs and attack coach, but nothing's been confirmed at this point. But something that has been confirmed is that a new head coach and director of the Arrows Academy is required. And that has been filled starting effective immediately by Jamie Cudmore, who has a long list of coaching responsibilities. He's coached in France when he was a player there. He's coached at the Pacific Pride. He's coached the Atlantic Selects. He's recently completed some coaching training down in New Zealand. And today it's also been announced that the Academy Talent Combine and coaching sessions are to take place across Ontario in November and December. So it looks like things are getting really started with the Arrows Academy, or Top Gun, as we like to call it.
Yeah, no, we keep calling it Top Gun. We got to keep doing it until it sticks. So we're calling it Top Gun. Hector, I thought obviously, was a great coach for the squad. Excited to see him moving up. A little, maybe like, I don't know if I want to say it's a little weird, but it's like, it's kind of interesting how the Arrows haven't announced the head coach yet, but they're announcing that Hector is becoming an assistant coach. And I mean, like, I'm all for like internally promoting guys from the you want the academy team. Obviously you want those players to graduate to the Arrows, and I mean you want coaches and that you develop down at the academy level as well to come up to the Arrows. Obviously Hector was part of the original Arrows coaching staff in 2019 as well, right? So he does have plenty of the MLR level experience under his belt too. I don't know. I'm still very much interested in who that new head coach is going to be. And the fact that we're announcing assistant coaches only adds to the anticipation, I feel. Jamie Cudmore, obviously, absolutely unreal Canadian rugby player. One of the best Canadian rugby players of all time. He might be one of the most talented coaches in Canada. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the reason he is not with Rugby Canada is because he sent a series of indefensible tweets regarding the Canadian women's sevens team following the Olympics. So obviously that's a thing that has happened. And but I think second chances are a good thing. And I think one of the things, like if I know a lot of the Toronto based sports fans here probably have heard of the Steve Dangle podcast, and one of their hosts, Adam Wilde, has a thing about show me like your receipts and stuff, like after people screw up, if you you can show that you put the work in to make amends, or learn and grow as a person, then yeah, like you can fully deserve and earn second chances as well. And if you kind of go through a lot of Cudmore's timeline and stuff, the Arrows obviously go out of their way to mention that he's been doing a lot of like coaching training. He has, he has posted, like, if you do follow him on social media, he occasionally posts like images of like certifications and stuff that he has completed. So to me, it looks like he's been doing the work to learn from those mistakes. And it also seems to me that like the high performance, like the niche that is in Rugby Canada of the high performance rugby community specifically, seem to be also kind of making him work his way back up to that level, right? Obviously, he went to Newfoundland, coached at the provincial level there, helped build the Atlantic Selects, which was obviously incredibly successful. And now he's here with the Toronto Arrows, but he's not with the MLR team. He's going to the academy team first. So it seems like he's building his way back up. And I'm honestly, I'm looking forward to having him here because, like, I mean, I don't like. I'm looking forward to having him here because, like, if he didn't tweet what he tweeted, he might be coaching Canada still. Right, like, which is just the reality. Yeah. That's not a defense of what he did or anything, but like, that's kind of the reality of the situation. He's with Canada if he doesn't do that. So, it's he's got to earn his way back up, but it's nice to see him back in high performance rugby.
From what people in the organization have told me is that Cudmore was incredibly remorseful for his actions. He was well aware that what he did threatened his career and could have ended it, and it was entirely his fault. And so I understand that he wants to come back. At the same time, if we are also not the victims of what he did.
No.
And some people, and that's the thing, is like, you being remorseful doesn't guarantee that you're forgiven. That is up to the individuals in question. And if they say because of this they can never support the Arrows, then fully understand, fully respect that decision. It's perfectly within your right to do so. I do agree with you. I do think if you have shown that you are remorseful and back it up instead of just putting out a statement and taking a mandatory course and then never speaking on the subject again, which obviously hasn't happened. Cudmore has done such stuff. Then and if an opportunity presents itself, as it has, then he is within his right to go for it. So we're not defending his actions. We're saying that he has demonstrated that he has been remorseful, that he wants to work through it and rather than move past it, I believe is probably the better understanding. And but if anyone listening to this or watching this feels as though that's not enough, we fully understand that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of people that still probably don't, but I don't know. It looks like he's been doing a lot of like training and stuff, and obviously the Arrows press release goes out of their way to kind of mention some of the more recent training that he's been doing down in New Zealand, and even the quote from him too in the article specifically also states it's like, I coach through a values-based process, right? So it seems like he has learned from the mistakes. Plus, I mean, like, as interesting as it is, right? Like, if you're the academy coach, part of what your job is going to be teaching all these young rugby players how to be pros. And in today's day and age, how to be pros includes how to conduct yourself on social media. That is a big part of how to be a pro in today's day and age. So yeah, like, if you like learn from your mistakes and pass on what you've learned, and you can help teach. And I mean, he might be the best coach in Canada right now. And like, that probably, like, the Pacific Pride was rolling with him at the helm there too. And obviously Phil Mack took over and is doing a great job as well. But like, it's like, I hope I want to see him back in high performance rugby.
Yeah.
As much as
I think
that, like I said, it's like as much as that doesn't, like, I want him to be learning from the mistakes and stuff too.
Yeah.
His leash might be a little bit shorter for saying things on social media if anything remotely crosses any lines ever, but like I want to see him back in high performance rugby, because like Canada doesn't exactly have the best coaching situation in the world.
Yeah, I was gonna say saying that you're the best coach for men's rugby in Canada isn't the highest bar when it comes to the national team, but
yeah.
I mean, yeah, and again, like Meg do, in the press release, he also mentions some of the coaches that he's collaborated with, including Vern Cotter and Joe Schmidt, and
He's a
any
really
of
good
the
coach.
any of the Scottish or Irish listeners will definitely be familiar with those names.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
think the one thing too is it's like it seems like players love him too.
yeah,
His players do. So I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of guys in the Arrows organization that are excited to have him on board as well. And yeah, you just like that's all. I mean, I think ultimately to sum it up, it's like I hope you learn from the mistake in the past. And looking forward to seeing what he does in the
in the academy.
in the academy system. Thank you. And Top Gun. Can't say academy,
Yeah,
you gotta say Top Gun.
yeah. All right, and so to date, these are the Arrows players that are with the squad for 2024. So in the forwards, we have McRogers, Rowland, Larson, Grindle, Flesh, and O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
In the backs, we have Brown, Malcolm, Richardson, Breen, Bowman, Bowen, and Grant. The traded players are Povey, Biddle, Jay Brown, and Waitakia, and there are still 9 foreign player slots. And speaking of other Canadians that have signed an MLR, the Canadian Embassy appears to have opened again in the US Capitol, as Graydon Bowd has re-signed for Old Glory DC. And, you know, he was instrumental in helping the Flags get to the playoffs for the first time last season. So fantastic to see him back in MLR for another year. Where he's not listed, however, is in the long list for Rugby Canada's senior men's for their tour to Spain, which was announced last week after the podcast. So I believe there are 40. Yeah, there are 43 players in this long list, which will be reduced down to 32. So we have, I believe, 7 players from the Free Jacks, 11 players from the Arrows, and I think it was something like 3 players from the Pacific Pride. But the thing is that some players like Mason Flesh are listed as Pacific Pride and Toronto Arrows. So in that case, I've just put Toronto Arrows.
Yeah. Klimchuk's there. Klimchuk's a pure Pride player.
Yeah, Matthew Ororu, he's pure Pride as well.
Yeah, and sevens. He's also sevens, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going with what's listed on Rugby Canada. I mean, what are the odds that Rugby Canada would make a mistake on a player's name or club?
Yeah, there's always that weird let's go through the period of time where I'm like they're accidentally announcing trades and stuff, and
yeah, such as Andrew Coe going to New York. That was a fun bit of news for the Sevens. But
lots of uncapped guys in this squad. Lots: Emerson Pryor, Tyler Wong,
David Richard, Deshaun Bowen,
Jake
I was about to say Gabe Casey, but he
Reed
picked up his
Watkins
first
from Seattle, scrum half.
Yeah.
Liam Bowman. Yeah. Noah Bain, Sean Bowen, Kieran Breen, Jack Shaw.
So
formerly known as ATL. So there's a lot of uncapped. There's a lot of sevens guys too, which is interesting.
So yeah, according to Neil Davidson, there are
once again no European guys.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah,
so Neil Davidson says there are question marks over some players, saying that Ross Brody is getting married. Travis Larson wasn't picked because his wife is about to give birth. Sean Parry is injured, and Spencer Jones and Graydon Bowd are unavailable. doesn't go into any more detail, just that they're unavailable. So
yeah.
Interesting to see. Jamin Hodgkins is joining. He
that's another uncapped player. I feel like I missed him.
Yeah,
listing off uncapped players.
Well, he's a former Canadian under-20 back. He's played for Cardiff Met and the Atlantic Selects.
He was unreal for the Atlantic Selects at the Coast to Coast Cup this year. So that's exciting.
Yeah, it's been
because he was incredible for that entire tournament. He was probably Atlantic's best player during that tournament. So that's exciting to see him in the Olympics.
Definitely interesting to see like what
I hope he plays. I just want to see him play a test match.
Yeah, I hope they actually cycle players this time around instead of just picking the same lineup.
Yeah, there's a lot of the uncapped guys that I'm kind of like I do want to see. I did say last week that I think this game might be a really big game for Kingsley Jones because of just how much everybody hates this signing as a coach.
Yeah.
He's got as much he doesn't have the leash that I think a new coach would have with this series. I think Kingsley Jones has to win this. So I do want to see some of these uncapped guys, but I also feel like that's not going to happen because I think I think Kingsley Jones needs to win this game, and win these two games. And I feel like he never plays all the uncapped guys anyways. So, I mean, I do want to see something new though. And there's a couple positions, I don't I don't know if I need to see Peter Nelson at fly half anymore. I think we gotta move. And I'm for Hodgkins, I think that's a spot to go in or start Povey and then have Hodgkins coming off the bench to see what he's got. But I think there's a handful of positions like that are just I'm more interested in seeing some of these capped guys. But also I still think that Kingsley Jones may have to win this game for himself, really.
Yeah. Well, the competition will begin with their match against Spain on November 11th, so it's probably going to be around next weekend, maybe a bit before, a bit after, that we actually get the traveling list for this. But I'm hoping, I agree with you, it probably will be the, tried and true, tested and higher cap guys. But I would really love to see a lot of new guys come along and get the opportunity to get their first caps, especially if the second game is going to be against the USA or Brazil. If it's the game against Brazil, then for lack of better terms, just bleed the new guys and just get them prepared for playing test rugby instead of just going with a tried and true method. So because I mean, look at where it's got you this far. Not in the World Cup. So make of that what you will. And, we've been talking about the men's senior 15s. Let's look at the women's senior 15s because WXV1 kicked off last weekend and it started with England, Australia, and then we had Canada, Wales. Now, I said this was going to be more of a test for Wales to see how they were going to do because obviously since they last played Canada, they've had a full year of professionalism under their belts. And, we weren't the only ones watching this. Rouge Rugby was watching as well. And, Wales were actually a threat and a challenge at points. They were able to get the ball where they needed to get it. They were able to spot gaps in Canada's defense. But I think with Wales, it was just too many errors under pressure that cost them from getting a try bonus point or even a losing bonus point. And Canada, they've just been playing at the same level consistently for, years at this point. They're one of the top 4 teams in the world for a reason, probably the highest ranked non-professional union at this point in time. And Canada did make some errors and make some mistakes, but they've been here. This is basically their house. They've been paying rent every month after month, and they're just used to this by now. So, fantastic point. Of course, it doesn't it doesn't hurt to have the greatest rugby player of all time.
The literal
playing for
best
you.
rugby player in the world. Yeah.
The Sophie de Goede, or
Yeah,
de
De
Goede
Goede.
as she actually known. And and getting the first try, nailing every conversion of the 6 tries that
And those
happened.
were like hard conversions. Like it's not like there was like a lot of there was a couple like touchline ones too. It's not like Canada scored every try under the post. Like, they were like difficult conversions, and yes, 6 for 6, unreal, and scored the first try and had breakdown steals and was completely dominant at every single element of the game. Like, it's Sophie de Goede is by far the best thing about Canadian rugby right now. It's like absolutely incredible. She's the best player in the world.
And you know what's also so good is that you could, if Sophie de Goede wasn't in this squad, then you could pick any of the 23 players and say like, oh, this person is like the greatest player for Canada as well. But because Sophie de Goede just raises that level, you have like the greatest player, and then you have a bunch of absolute great players on this squad. It has just been an absolute joy to watch them play this game against Wales. And obviously being Welsh, I have a bit of a bias in me, but
that sucked.
Yeah, well, it was basically a question of like, no matter what happens, I win. So
well,
I'm fine with that.
If there's a game that involves Sophie de Goede and you tune in to watch, you already won. Like, life has been won. Yeah, so de Goede was obviously the best player on the pitch. So good, she had to do 2 post-match interviews. Right.
Yeah,
she's twice as good as everybody else, so she's got to do 2. But yeah, absolutely incredible game for her. It's like we do this podcast and we talk about the Canadian women's team whenever they play. And it's like every time we have to watch, we get to watch, we earn the privilege of watching Sophie de Goede play is like every time. And it's like every time watching her, I'm like, she does things in games that I'm like, this is mind boggling. Like that a person is this good at. And it's like, it's crazy too, because obviously the big like Sophie de Goede trademark is the fact that she's a forward that does the goal kicking.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, in like trying to think of like compare like Shohei Ohtani in baseball is like the only guy that I'm like can remotely think of. Right. As like someone that's like, he's one of the best pitchers in the league, and he's also one of the best hitters in the league. Like it shouldn't like baseball players aren't built like that, but yet somehow Shohei Ohtani exists. Right. Like Sophie de Goede is like if you combine like Artie Savea and Dan Carter somehow, and it's like that's the skill set that's there. Like you have like I think I may be using Artie Savea because he has been playing unreal at the Rugby World Cup, but it's like you have like everything that you could possibly want in a number 8 is there. Everything that you could probably want in a fly half is there, and somehow that's the same person. It's stunning to watch on like a game by game basis. It's like you shouldn't be like, and it's like she does everything. She's like super reliable at the line out, unreal in the breakdown. Gets breakdown steals after breakdown steals. She doesn't get a steal. She slows the ball down, right? Phenomenal tackler. If she gets the ball in her hands, she could keep it and run forward and run right through you. Or if she decides to go through the hands, it's super accurate, unbelievable playmaking ability. And then, she's kicking like 45-meter out touchline conversions. Like, there's literally not a thing that you want a rugby player to do that she can't do. And it's somehow in one person. Right?
Yeah.
Like Johnny Sexton can't jump in a line out. He's a great rugby player, but he just can't do that. Sophie de Goede somehow do that. Like I don't. It's mind boggling. Other great performances in this game. Obviously, I thought Sabota was really good. She obviously had a huge try too. Flo Simmons, I thought was unreal. Like she was averaging almost 30 meters per carry when she got the ball. Every time she got the ball, it was just like down the touchline. She was fine, getting offloads, making passes, setting up tries. That one Maddie Grant try was
Yeah.
that was insane. Like that's Matty Grant's name goes on the try, but like the whole play from like the line out to the way the ball moved through the hands to obviously Simmons' explosion of speed to the pass to Grant and Grant's finish. I believe one of the players, which I don't know who it was, someone yelled that was a fucking clinic in the try celebration. And I don't know which player that was, but that player was correct. That was like one of the most perfectly executed tries I've seen any Canadian team score in quite some time. And it was a great first game of the WXV. Right. Love that this women's tournament is taken off. It has started, it's been taken off. We even, because of the timing of the next game, we got a lineup we can talk about too if you want to get into that. Just a couple changes.
Well, before
or do you have something else to add? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, I had just something quickly to add is that, in the second half, Dalika Menin came on earning her 50th cap. She is so far the 7th Canadian woman to reach this milestone. So congratulations to her. It actually, and in the press release, there's actually a quote from Emily Totosi of speaking of Menin. I think she's been pivotal to Canadian rugby, especially athletes from the prairies, from the small towns. The Canadian scrum is a staple of our rugby, and she's been a part of it. I've been proud watching her from game one, and to be here and step on the field with her for her first scrum in her 50th means a lot. So, yeah, congratulations again to Menin. Congratulations to all the women on their victory, but let's turn our heads now to the future. And let's talk about this lineup. I mean, a lot of familiar names appearing into mind.
Not a ton of changes for the lineup.
No. But I mean, as well, it's going to be the third test against England this year, but the only one in the WXV, so this is the only one that matters.
Yeah.
So, front row starting, we have Hunt, we have Totosi, we also have Menin as well. So Menin getting a 51st cap in this game. We promise we won't keep bringing up Menin's caps every time we're talking about her appearances. Now, Bookeboom and Holtkamp as the second row, Senf, Svoboda, and de Goede making up the back line. Apson, Gallagher in the out halves position, Simmons and Paige Farries coming back to start on the wing. Tessier and I'm gonna definitely butcher this name. I'm so sorry. Sumanu Tafa is the centers, and Lachance starting at the fullback position. Obviously it's great to see a lot of Premiership women's rugby players in, like the entire front row is, basically the Allianz Cup final from view of Hunt, Totosi, and Menin, two Chiefs and the Saracen. We also have de Goede, Saracen, Bokaboom with Trailfinders, Tessier with the Exeter Chiefs, Paige Farries with the this is awkward. Listed with the Worcester Warriors, who technically no longer exist. Svoboda, she's with the Loughborough Lightning. And then we look to the bench. We do have Alexander
Sophie de Goede from the Saracens.
I mentioned Sophie de Goede.
Oh, did you? Oh, all right. Well, you know what? She's so good. I got to mention her again.
Yeah, you got to mention her again. And then on the bench, we have Alexandria Ellis, also a Saracen as well. And then we have a lot of, we have Justine Pelletier, who is a star at Bordelais. And then we have a lot more, Madison Grant with Claymore, Shell with the Wanderers, Klein with the Tigers, Smith of the University of Calgary, Casil with the Redcoats, and Borg with Capilano RFC. It's a pretty stacked squad.
Yeah, it's a good team. It's obviously not a whole lot of changes, only a couple. Menin coming in for Ellis, and and Paige Ferry's kind of drawing into the lineup. Grant dropping back to the bench, Scurfield out. It's really about it. But it's it's obviously it's a good team. They got England at 2 a.m. on Friday morning, or if you're out on the Thursday night, if you're on the Pacific Coast. But it should be a good game. It's obviously Canada, against the best team in the world, a team that they lost to twice about a month ago, and the team they obviously lost to in the World Cup semifinal. So there's got to be a little bit of a measure of revenge or wanting to settle a couple scores in this game. And I'm looking forward to it. It's at 2 a.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
Stu, what is your strategy for this game?
So I finish work. I will take some melatonin, go straight to bed, wake up at midnight,
Okay.
do all the chores I would normally do after work. What, and then in those 2 hours, watch the game at 2. Game finishes probably about like 4 a.m. I get a couple hours sleep, and then able to get back to work, and my job is none the wiser. What's your strategy?
I actually took a vacation day for Friday, so I'm going to
long weekend.
Yeah,
Nice.
exactly. I'll go with I'm going with the little bit of the long weekend, so I'm not sure if I haven't really decided if I'm gonna like try to stay up all the way through to, like, as you said, 4 a.m. But I got that window to kind of sleep in during the day now. And obviously the bronze medal game of the World Cup is gonna be at 3. So that was also some motivation to just be like, I think I should just take a vacation day to watch rugby. That's
that is a very reasonable use of your time.
Yeah, I know it's the best use of vacation days is what they're for, right? So yeah, so I think that ended up being my strategy, was just being like, I could probably just stay up till 4 a.m. and then just not bother going to work. And have a good time with it.
I have just taken a quick look, and England have released their squad, and a lot of familiar names for them as well. Kildun at fullback, Abby Dow on the wing, Holly Atchinson at fly half, Carson, Atkin Davies, and Byrne as the starting front row.
Great. Fun.
Talling, Packer, and Matthews as the back row.
That's fun.
Yeah, so it's so clearly England knows what works to play against Canada, but obviously looks can be deceiving.
England's so good. They're so good.
I mean, of course England is so good. The longest professional winning streak in rugby.
Yeah, they too bad they lost the biggest one that matters, though.
Yeah, but let's not dwell on that.
Yeah, let's not dwell on the past. It's like, just remember that I just want Canada to remember that they're beatable. They're beatable.
Yeah. So let's move back to France, because before we talk about the bronze final and the World Cup final, their World Rugby Council held a vote earlier today. A lot of things that needed approving. Let's start on the negative, and then we'll go into the positive. Sounds good? So, this Nations Championship that was touted around a few months ago, basically the nations of the Rugby Championship and the Six Nations, plus 2 other nations, which are heavily rumored to be Japan and Fiji, will be the top tier of this new Nations Championship. That has now been approved at the World Council. And the official press release talks of launch of a biannual new international competition from 2026, comprising of top division of 12 teams, which are the teams I mentioned, and a second division run by World Rugby of 12 teams with promotion and relegation commencing from 2030. Oh, good. A solid 8 years from now.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, cool.
Throwing that one in, guys. Yeah.
Played in the July and November international release windows, it will provide crucial opportunities and certainty of fixtures for unions currently outside of the existing annual competitions, and in turn provide opportunities for unions and regional associations through to the second division. Okay, that's a lot of buzzwords for stuff, basically saying that they're ring fencing
Yeah, it's
international rugby. Uh,
yeah,
and they say biannual because they want to preserve not only the World Cup but the British and Irish Lions tour, which, in my opinion, is now a remnant of the amateur era that needs to die. But
I don't know.
I'm
Yeah,
not Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa that make a load of money from these tours. So what do I know?
yeah. I would.
Um,
I don't know. I would like to in this new format. If you want to take an aside for the Lions, I think they
yeah,
need to revamp the Lions tour. Like, go to have the Lions go to like other places. Like other
I
than New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa. Like, go play like have a big tour where you just bring like the most famous players and some of the most famous players in the world and just go tour through tier two nations that
yeah.
are never going to get to see them play ever again. Like,
Well, this is the thing. So the dates for the 2025 tour of Australia, they've already been decided.
yeah,
They're having that New Zealand Australia invitational team for some reason. They're having a number of the Super Rugby sides for Australia play against the Lions as part of a warm up. And then obviously they have the 3 match series themselves. Now, I think that for the 2029 tour, because clearly they're keeping it around, when they go to New Zealand, this is my compromise. They play Samoa. Sorry, the Lions, the British and Irish Lions, should play teams like Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, but they play them in New Zealand. So at the stadia in the host country, so that the host
yeah,
gets something out of it. But they say this is the set price for the Lions, and this is the set price for the tier 2 nation, and it's the exact same amount.
yeah. I think we're
And
getting a little
then
sidetracked with the hypothetical Lions tour in this thing. We have so much to be angry about right now.
I know, that's get off there. I don't agree with it, and as especially say doing something like this, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I know they're talking
Oh,
about like, oh, guaranteeing fixtures, and Samoa would have had no fixtures in 2024 if it wasn't for something like this. To which I say, you're World Rugby. What is the point of you if you're not organizing international fixtures? But
I
again, what I do, I envision to make sense. So clearly, it doesn't work for World Rugby. So
yeah, like I feel very much the same way that I felt about like the sevens like
like
restructure.
the reduction of teams and
Yeah,
stuff.
like the reduction of teams because it's like it really does just feel like you know Six Nations, the rugby championship are trying to as I think the what I think is happening is that the gap between I think there is still a distinct tier 1 tier 2 but I think that gap is shrinking dramatically especially
Mm-hmm.
especially concerning like the bottom of the tier 1 teams and the top of the tier 2 teams as we just saw Fiji got to the quarterfinals of the World Cup, right?
Mm-hmm.
Japan showed everybody what they can do against South Africa in 2015, and they've continued to build on that since. I think that gap is closing between tier 1 nations and tier 2 nations, and this just seems like a move from the Six Nations and the Rugby Championship to like protect themselves and
Mm-hmm.
at the complete expense of tier 2 rugby. And it's very I think it's very unfortunate. um Obviously, in Europe with the Six Nations, I mean, I think like I feel like this news has got to be devastating to teams like Georgia, right? And
You say that apparently Georgia voted for it.
yeah, I mean I
No,
think there's a
sorry,
lot.
Georgia's union voted for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So
I feel like there's a lot of unions that voted for this that I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like,
yeah,
Canada being one of them. Canada obviously also voted in favor. Um, I mean, I maybe kind of get it because Canada obviously got included in something here. We got the
yeah,
Nations Cup. The thing is, it's like what I was saying though is it's like I feel like they're like with the sevens, right? We talked about at the end of the season last year, we were both very excited that Canada beat Kenya and were able to stay on as a core team, but at the same time expressed disappointment that Kenya is not going to be on the tour next year because they kind of feel like a classic core sevens team, right? They've had some legendary players through their program. They've had some great performances at tournaments. It's going to be sad to see Kenya go, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we talked later about how Kenya responded to that by beating the Blitz box and qualifying for the Olympics, sending them to the repechage tournament. Right. So it's like, there you go. Like, thanks for excluding us. We can still beat the best team in the world on any given day. Right. So they kind of have that. And that's kind of how I feel about this as well, where it's like, it seems like everything's like a lot of teams are going to be cut out. The new Pacific Nations Cup, Fiji, Japan, Samoa, Tonga, USA, and Canada. And I'm like, how the hell is a South American team not in this? How is South American teams not included in anything? Go.
Well, that's the thing. So, according to Ignacio Shands, he mentioned that Chile, Uruguay, Sudamerica Rugby opted out of this competition and it seems like to be for two reasons. One, this is going to be taking place outside of the international window. It's meant to be in August, September, which I also thought that was the same window for the Rugby Championship. So I thought it well. Clearly, I'm wrong.
It doesn't matter to Canada. None of those players are going to play for them anyways.
That is true. But it's saying that, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, they're going to be basically fielding like A squads or, uncapped squads in this regard. And, they didn't agree with that. But on the other hand, as I said, Fiji and Japan are probably going to be picked up by the Rugby Championship for 2026. And so that basically ends the competition after 2 years.
Fun. Yeah, cool. And then we're back to where we started.
So so then
Argentina voted no to this. As well. Like, shout out Argentina. But also, maybe that's why they're not being included in things, is because they all voted no. And World Rugby is, a high school level clique of people.
What? Elitism in World Rugby?
Like,
perish the thought.
It is. And I mean, like, I think it's gonna be tough. Like, I think it's gonna be tough for, like, tier 2 nations to obviously crack that. I think, like, the thing that I'm seeing is like I don't know, I'm just like why do you have to like close this all off? Like, it kind of sucks on the level of, it's like, Canada, like, as much as they lose, Canada playing England is kind of a fun thing when it happens, because we don't like, especially if they were to come and play here, because we never get to play them or whatever. It's like we don't get to see those players that often as Canadian fans, and it's like, now obviously you're never going to. It doesn't help to grow the game, I don't think. You know what the thing that I hate the most about this, though? I hate the most? I'm gonna fucking watch it. Like, who's saying no to, like, that's the thing. It's like, as much as I hate this, the moment they're like New Zealand's playing Ireland, I'm gonna be like, cool, I'm watching it. That's the thing that bothers me the most. It's just like, I'm not gonna not watch this, right? And it's like, and it's at the complete detriment of tier 2 rugby, but like, we're all gonna complain about it, and then we're all gonna watch it because we like rugby. And
and it's basically lose-lose situation, because it's either you watch this or you don't watch tier 1 rugby.
But even at that, I'm like, you know what, it's like, South Africa playing England is an exciting matchup. I want to check that out, right? Or
I get it.
France or whoever this is gonna be. Like, we're all gonna complain about it, and then we're all gonna watch it. And we'll probably still complain about it, but we're all
we'll probably complain about it because as soon as it gets on social media, it'll be taken down, and then
oh my god, well, that's another thing altogether. But like either way, but I think like I mean that's the thing though. It's like I think like stuff like that is it's like it's kind of showing how it feels like World Rugby is so out of touch with how to grow the sport.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like people will probably watch the Nations Cup or whatever they're calling this, Nations Championship, right? People will probably watch it, but I feel like it's going to be at the expense of caring about a lot of the tier 2 nation competitions, right? And yeah, like I mean, I'm looking at this too and I'm like, man, like I wish we had something between North and South America still. That relationship has seemed really strained for a while now, but like I kind of miss out on that. Even like the Pacific Nations Cup, I'm kind of like I don't like is that the best selection of teams to kind of like help grow the game in North America too? Because part of that proposal is that the finals are going to be in Japan, right? Rotating between Japan and the USA. And I'm kind of like, okay, so if the final of that ends up being like Samoa versus Tonga at 3 a.m., like, is anyone in North America watching that? Or like, even if it ends up being like Canada, USA, but the game's in Japan at 3 a.m., like, is that the best way to build the audience in North America by having Canada and USA play each other at 3 o'clock in the morning? Or even like for the USA finals, like if that USA final ends up being like Samoa versus Tonga, like in New York, like is that going to sell a lot of tickets in Chicago or wherever they're going to have that home game? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a fast, like I don't know if that's the best structure, the best like, I mean, if I'm being perfectly honest, like I haven't. This came out today. And I haven't had time to really read through it all. So, I mean, there may be stuff that I'm kind of missing for it, but like, it just seems like it kind of stinks. Like, even like the World Cup qualifying and stuff. It's like, why is the draw so early still? Like,
I think it's later than it has been for World Cups that I know about. I think like the qualification for 2015 was decided in like December of 2012. This one it will be January of 2026. So again, still nearly just under 2 years out, and people are saying like, why can't this be done in November of
do it like 20? Do it once all the teams are qualified. Like, why? I don't get it. I don't know. Like, it's just a draw. Like, they're all going to the same country. So World Cup. Like, not like any teams are dramatically shifting their travel plans or whatever. But yeah, like I think overall, like I'm just like, it's funny how like World Rugby will be like, should we put last names on the back of the jerseys? And there'll be like so much resistance to that, but then they're like, we're gonna drop this ridiculous tournament and cut out all the tier 2 nations because that'll help grow the game.
Instead of stupid competition formats, let's finish on a positive, because at this vote we also had this news that the Rugby World Cup 2027 will be hosted between the 1st of October and the 13th of November and will be expanded from 20 to 24 teams. It's finally happened. A solid 12 years too late, but it has finally happened. They also have a few details. So this new this new tournament will take place over 6 weeks and 7 weekends, supporting welfare, entertainment, and the pool phase will be reduced from 5 to 4 weeks. The round of 16 is to be introduced, with top teams from each pool automatically qualifying, along with the best 4 third-place teams. The decision provides certainty for all stakeholders, maintains Rugby World Cup's position as a jewel in the crown of the international calendar. They also said the pool stage will be 6 pools of 4 teams, and says details of the qualification process are to be confirmed following a full review of France 2023 and consultation with unions and regions, which, is par for the course. Obviously, when you're expanding the World Cup, you need to sort this all out. It may be a case of, they follow my example that I provided a couple of weeks ago. They may just say,
we're basically as far as the way that it's divided. Or you said qualification process, but
yeah. So, we'll see. I mean, with this nation's championship, it's going to be kind of difficult to really get space for qualifying. Then again, all the teams that are going to be in the top of the nation's championship have already qualified, so they don't need to worry about this nonsense. But as in, it's finally happened. It's expanded to 24 teams. Hopefully, we're not waiting another 12 to expand it again, that by the time we get to 2035, we're expanding it, potentially when Spain and Portugal host. Cross fingers, knock wood, all that kind of jazz.
Is that but yeah, that year?
That is not confirmed, but
that'd be cool.
They have expressed interest in hosting, along with potentially Italy as well.
Interesting.
But again,
perhaps to grow the game by playing some interesting games there in that part of the world between now and then. Yeah, that might be fascinating.
I'm sorry. Did you just say more games between tier 1 nations?
Yeah. Maybe teams should be. Maybe we shouldn't have a tier 1, tier 2 divide. Maybe we should just play games against everybody.
Anyway, we started in France. We're going back to France because we now have the finals of the 2023 Men's Rugby World Cup. And as you mentioned, Derek, we have the bronze final, which will be Argentina versus England, and the World Cup final, which will be New Zealand versus South Africa. A repeat of 1995's final. Whoever wins this will be the first nation to have won 4 Rugby World Cups. Yeah, definitely. Currently, even though both have won 3, South Africa, having not competed in the first 2, have the better winning percentage in terms of cups won versus tournaments played. But it's going to be very interesting. But let's go back to the bronze final. Argentina, they were just swept aside really by New Zealand, unfortunately. They may have picked up a win in this cycle between the World Cups, but once those All Blacks know that they could potentially get the hand on the Webb Ellis Trophy, they were like not letting anyone get in their way as Argentina fell. England versus South Africa, a far closer affair. England leading for the majority of the game, but it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Andre Pollard coming on much earlier than expected, but definitely being a key difference maker as the penalties piled up. Only South Africa winning by 1 point, and ultimately we have the final we do. So Argentina versus England, the bronze final. Derek, who do you think is going to win that?
I think I'm going to go with England. No real particular reason, but I do want to see some of the Saracens boys come home with some sort of hardware after the tournament, and maybe prevent the all Southern Hemisphere sweep of the podium.
Okay, that's fair. That's reasonable.
Yeah, there was no actual analysis in that.
No, well, that's the thing as well. I think,
yes, it's fair that I pick the players that I cheer for. Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna say Argentina.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Now,
they voted no, so we should all be cheering for Argentina. Really, they voted no. So
yeah. No, I think Argentina. I think they were just outclassed by the most dominant team in all of sport last weekend, but they have been pushed around. They've moved around. I will say, though, I am saying this, I've just remembered that anytime teams face each other again in a World Cup tournament, the result is the same in terms of who wins and who loses. So it's either Argentina buck that trend or England continue it. But you know what? I'm going to put my neck out for Los Pumas. I'm going to go with Argentina.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair, man.
And now we get to the final: New Zealand versus South Africa.
Love it. It's a great final matchup. It's unreal.
Well, we were talking about this last week. Is like if it's New Zealand versus South Africa, it's going to be fantastic to watch.
Yeah, it's the best rivalry in rugby, and whoever wins gets to say they have the most World Cups. So they're both right now. It's unbelievable storylines going into this one.
Yeah, I think South Africa have been remarkable this World Cup. They've been resilient, especially in that game against England. Very easy. Other teams could have been losing and buckled under pressure, but South Africa kept their heads cool. They were able to keep calm and collected, even when Owen Farrell scored the drop goal. They were able to claw back in, get the necessary coverage, and were able to get that win when they desperately needed it. But at the same time, I think they have been put under the cosh too many times, and I think New Zealand are just on another level. Also, this isn't the Qatar Cup, so I think New Zealand are going to be far more on the knife for what they need to do, and so I'm going to go with the All Blacks.
Yeah, I think this is, I don't know. I think this is the best possible finals matchup. It's so intriguing. It's probably the two best rugby nations ever historically going head to head. There's obviously a huge rivalry. There's nothing between these teams. Like this is I feel like is like a coin flip as far as picking which team is going to win. They're so close. It's as cliche as it might be. I feel like this game's going to come down to who wants it more. And there's something about the way like the All Blacks, to me, like people concerned about them going into the tournament. They're at the lowest they've ever been in the world rankings heading into the World Cup. And there is something about that kind of setup that I'm like, I feel like that pisses New Zealand off a lot, knowing that they're the lowest ranked they've ever been, and people are kind of writing them off before the World Cup. And I think in all the years I've been watching rugby, it's like maybe don't pick against the pissed off All Black side. And they seem to be having it's unusual to see, but I feel like especially in the knockout stages, they got a little chip on their shoulder going into these games. So I mean, I love South Africa. I love what they do. I love how like how much they kind of innovate in the game with their tactics and everything. But I think I'm gonna go with New Zealand, and they can claim their rightful place as the best rugby team of all time.
Okay, well, those are our predictions for the bronze final, which is Argentina versus England, and the World Cup final of New Zealand versus South Africa. And if you want to watch those games, you can find that on TSN, as well as the WXV match between Canada and England. And if you are looking to follow the club competition, the Premiership and the URC is available on Sportsnet. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to check out more, as well as our written pieces on our website, therougerugby.ca. You can also find our podcast on Spotify, S4P, and Apple Podcasts. We also have a YouTube channel at The Rouge Rugby with episodes of the podcast, as well as extra interviews with players and coaches. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification, and stay up to date with all our videos. We are also available across social media, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, all at The Rouge Rugby. Derek, where can people find you on social media?
At Brissette the Jet across all social media networks. And thanks to everyone that listened to our hour-plus long rant on Kingsley Jones last week. Is by far the most listens, downloads, views, whatever you want to call them, that we've ever gotten in 1 week. It's almost at our most listened to, viewed episode of all time. You want to know what it's second right now. You want to know what's behind, Stu? Have you looked at this?
I haven't. Can you tell me?
All right, I'll give you a hint. The date of the episode is October 15th, 2021. Episode 93.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, when Canada were eliminated?
When Canada lost to Chile. People apparently like us being very angry and sad. So that's maybe that.
Well, misery loves company.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so that's kind of what the territory. I'm sure it's gonna pass it because like even like that Chile episode, I feel like I've seen the number go up over time or whatever, and it's like this is. I feel like the Kingsley Jones one's gonna crush it. So bit of misery for us, but I'm glad you guys all enjoyed it. Hopefully, you enjoyed this one too. Anybody that's listen to that episode for the first time, welcome aboard, and hopefully you enjoyed this episode as well.
Yeah. And if you're wondering where you can find me, I'm across social media at Hardman, spelled H4RDMAN. Well, that's where we're going to end this episode. Derek, thank you for joining me. And thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast, where we talk about real Canadian rugby. We hope you can join us again next time.